Living in modern times has become a complicated affair. Relationships between people have immensely deteriorated, resulting in family disputes, stressful work environment, religious disputes, envy, and war between countries. The lust for money and power makes us strive doggedly to achieve something or the other. Therefore, the Hebrew word shalom, or peace, is scarcely enjoyed by us, either in the physical or spiritual realm, and it rather seems anonymous with the present-day lifestyle. But it is this shalom that creates a healthy relationship between our fellow brethren. An in-depth study into the history and lifestyle of nations and people of the past would indicate a contrast to the present-day scenario. We may be surprised to know that people lived in complete peace with each other and their families. The habits and cultural literacy show that societies in the past were almost devoid of theft, bribery, and other forms of corruption. All this was possible because they adhered to a structural order. We may now ask ourselves the question, what made them so different to us? Well, the answer is simply that they followed a set of principles and commitments that define their values and importance. Their actions, which may be seemingly impossible nowadays, were based on what they believed and who they were. This program is to highlight some of those principles that greatly influenced them and that we may have forgotten. Let us now take a look at the origins of these principles, how it was given to the ancients, and how it helped shape their lives. Moshe, or Moses, the son of Amram, son of Kohath, son of Levi, son of Yaakov, or Jacob, son of Yitzhak, or Isaac, and son of Avraham, or Abraham, heard the voice in Mount Sinai in the Jabal al-Lawz region of the present-day Saudi Arabia. About 400 years before this, Avraham heard the voice calling him in the Chaldean city of Ur, known in the present day as Shinar in Turkey. Terah, Avraham's father, was an idol maker, and Ur was an idolatrous and sinful city, worshipping many different gods, such as the god of fire, moon, sun, and following practices that was sinful. God promised to make Avraham into a great nation if he would leave Ur and go to a land that God would give him. Abraham was not raised in the best of environments, yet when God called Abraham, he believed God, and by faith he followed God's instructions. He called this God El Shaddai, meaning God of the mountains. Avraham, his son Yitzhak, and his grandson Yaakov adopted this God as their God and worshipped and followed him. This God brought Yaakov and his children into Egypt during the severe 7-year famine. Jacob's families numbered 70 male descendants when they entered Egypt. Much before that, Joseph, who was sold as a slave by his brothers, became the second in authority in Egypt, commanding great power and influence in Egypt. Pharaoh gave Yaakov and his sons the fertile Goshen area alongside the river Nile to possess and dwell. They lived and multiplied for 200 years to be numerous, which frightened the Egyptians. They made them slaves and subjected them to hard labor. This God heard their cry and remembered the promise he had made to Abraham and decided to deliver them. At this time, God called Moshe while he was tending sheep in Midian, hiding from Pharaoh for killing an Egyptian who was torturing a fellow Hebrew. God conscripted Moshe to speak to Pharaoh and seek the release of the Hebrew people to worship the God of their fathers. At this moment, for the very first time, God revealed his mighty name, Yehovah, to Moshe. God also declared that by this name he should henceforth always be remembered. Until then, all gods were the making of human beings' imaginations or demonic entities, and were named according to the purpose they were created for, and were prayed to. Their names defined their character and purpose. Their territories were limited to geographical and cultural boundaries. So, for the first time in human history, a God whom we knew until then as El Shaddai revealed his name and became known as Yehovah. The acts and miracles performed by Yehovah to deliver the Hebrews, who were weak as slaves and shepherds, from the strong and mighty Pharaoh and his mighty army, are legendary. Archaeological evidences have since proved that these were not fables or stories concocted by humans to enhance their faith. These were real incidents chronicled by a real timeline and evidences as proof of their occurrences. When the Israelites left Egypt and crossed the Red Sea to reach Mount Sinai, where Yehovah wanted the Hebrews to gather, he called for Moshe to the top of Mount Sinai, and before all of the people whom he had delivered and assembled at the foot of the mountain, he spoke in a voice that all could hear and witness. He once again revealed his mighty name before all who had gathered and gave a set of principles for righteous living. Thus came into existence the 10 principles, which we call as commandments, given to Moses on Mount Sinai on 2 solid rock tablets with 5 principles on each side. As the centuries passed by, this set of principles lost its relevance in everyday life. The contents of this program are extensively based on the works of the following authors and producers: Mr. Tom Bradford, www.torahclass.com; the late Mr. Ronald Wyatt, Wyatt Archaeological Research; www.wyattmuseum.com; Rabbi Daniel Lapin; www.rabbidaniellapin.com. We recommend taking a tour of their websites, where immeasurable information are available for free. The acceptance of Yehovah as their God obligated the Hebrews to adopt his principles for a righteous living. The foremost and important of these was respecting the right to life. A believer in Yehovah must not remove the life of another person indiscriminately, and should also make the others in his society accountable to the life they would murder. Yehovah, as our God and Creator, is the only being with any authority over the life and span of time anyone had in this world. Taking a life is an act of destroying his creation and disobeying his principles. Yehovah determines that murderers who shed innocent blood should be put to death. It is measure for measure, blood for blood. In Hebrew, it is called midah keneged midah. In Greek and modern law, it is called lex talionis. In today's world, governments, as well as people, are of the opinion that the death sentence should be abolished. The innocent blood shed, if not avenged by the blood of the perpetrator, would bring curse on the land. The curse would involve in the decrease of the nation's populace, productivity, and overall wealth. We see this happening in the modern world. From Japan in the East, where committing suicide is considered honorable, to the United States, where serial murderers, abortions, and any form of taking life is judged as a sick individual act, has taken the toll on their economy, health, and wealth of the people. Natural calamities as hitherto not seen or heard of, the list goes on. In the near future, aged and single individuals would have to survive on their own. Any country that practices indiscriminate killings like Africa, the Middle East, Asian subcontinent have not escaped the disasters of natural calamities, especially in the regions that practice them either for sorcery, money, revenge, or honor. These regions need not be taken by surprise, as they have been foretold and warned thousands of years ago. Avenging the blood of innocents keeps the land and the people away from such curses.